Welcome to Hamburgers and Horror, the home of meat, monsters, and massive Santa Clauses frozen in ice. I'm Noah Hook, and today we're watching Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale. Rare Exports follows a Finnish boy who thinks a secret mountain drilling project near his home has uncovered the tomb of Santa Claus. But this isn't your typical jolly old Saint Nick, folks. When Pieteri's father captures a feral old man in his wolf trap, yeah, you heard me right, the man may hold the key to why reindeer are being slaughtered and children are disappearing around the village. The world of Rare Exports began as a short film. In 2003, Woodpecker Film published Rare Exports Inc. on the internet. The film introduces us to an elite team who roams the wilderness of northern Finland for the wild Father Christmas. They capture the Father Christmases, which are their own specific species, and train them to be the docile, friendly things we know them as, and they sell them in countries all around the world. Positive reception led to a second short film, Rare Exports The Official Safety Instructions, in 2005, which gained a lot of traction on YouTube. It explains the process of training the Father Christmas and warns that things such as bad behavior will cause the creature to revert back to its basic instincts and become a brutal beast. In 2007, writer of both shorts Jalmari Helander pitched his idea for a feature-length version to producer Petri Jokiranta. Seeing the cult following the shorts already had, they immediately picked up the project. It was filmed in 2009 and released in 2010 and earned $4 million globally, doubling its $2 million budget. The film is pretty well liked with a nice 90 and 70% on Rotten Tomatoes. It generally has the right mix of horror and comedy, never taking one of the two too far. I will say that while the plot itself leans more into horror, the tone of the movie is usually a bit more on the comedic side, so if you aren't much for horror comedies, it might not be for you, or if you're one of those people who refuses to watch a movie with subtitles. But that's what I'm here for. Also, if I mess up any pronunciations, I am truly sorry. Y'all rightfully got on me about some of my pronunciations during the ritual review, and I tried my best to figure out all of the correct pronunciations, but once again, I'm very sorry. Hold on to your gingerbread and blow dryers, folks. It's time to catch some Rare Exports. We start with a calendar telling us it's 24 days till Christmas, as this dirty guy named Green says while they were drilling into the mountain, sawdust started coming out. This Danny DeVito penguin-looking guy named Riley says that in the olden days, sawdust was used to store ice, and this mountain is actually one big ice chest. Riley tells him to keep drilling, and Green says they are as they speak. He hands him a bunch of safety instructions he is to give to every Sub-Zero worker. The rules prohibit drinking, smoking, cursing, and all the other fun things in life. Green doesn't take this seriously and gets a proper ear pull for it. We hop over to the Korvattunturi mountain drill site, where Pietari and Juuso are watching from behind some big explosives. Green brings Riley their newest sample, a beautiful piece of ice. Riley tells the men his lifelong dream is about to come true and that they are standing on the largest sacred burial ground in the world. He says it took the Sami people thousands of years to build it and they have 24 days to bring it down. Juuso seems to know English and translate what is being said for Pietari. The boys return to their fence hole and snowmobile, where Pietari asks Juuso if Santa is buried there. Juuso calls him a baby and tells him Santa isn't real and Christmas is just a way to trick children into behaving. They see a big explosion on the mountain before heading home. As the credits do their thing, Pietari researches the history of Santa, and according to these books, Santa wasn't exactly the friendliest guy, as he whips and boils misbehaving children and has big old scary horns. We jump all the way to one day before Christmas and we meet Pietari's father, Rauno, as he finishes up his spiky trap for some wolves he hears in the distance. Don't forget to add the pig head, Rauno. There you go. He yells for Pietari to wake up. Looks like he's been pulling all-nighters at the window, watching the mountain. Yelling doesn't work, but a snowball does the trick. Pietari scolds the lazy Vupe for not keeping watch. Damn it, Vupe! He notices some footprints on the roof and runs to get his father. He runs to Rauno's slaughterhouse, and his father tells him to come inside. Pietari doesn't want to, but eventually does so. He has his son close his eyes as he is in the middle of butchering the beheaded pig. Pietari asks if he has been on the roof, which he hasn't. He tells his son to go get ready, as today they are going to round up all of the reindeer for slaughter. The father and son snowmobile over to a big pen. A man named Pipparinen yells to back away as he turns on the fence's brand new electricity. Pip tells Rauno it's for the reindeer's protection, as the explosives from the mountain have sent the wolves down to their level. The boys are talking when the reindeer begin to approach. They prepare to gather a large herd, but the two they see are the only ones. They snowmobile toward the mountain and find an absolute reindeer massacre. Rauno and Pip find Yuso's father, Imo, and try to figure out how or why wolves would even do this. They notice the hole the boys cut in the fence, and Yuso threatens Pietari to keep his mouth shut. The men discuss how much money they just lost, and Pietari notices a very human-looking footprint amongst the carnage. Rauno is determined to avoid bankruptcy and blasts the gate open to receive compensation from Sub-Zero. It's nightfall by the time they reach the base, and it looks like it's been abandoned. They do find a massive excavation that goes way down. With no chance of getting reimbursed, they head home. Pietari shows Yuso the images of Santa and the image from Sub-Zero's base. He says a long time ago the Sami people lured the monstrous Santa onto a lake, and he broke through the ice and froze. Come summer, they dug out the ice block and buried it under a sky-high pile of rocks, what they now know as Corvantanturi Mountain. Yuso thinks all this Santa talk is nonsense though, and once again tells Pietari he better not snitch. Rauno and Pietari have a very solemn but very sweet gingerbread dinner. They talk about his mom, and Pietari asks if he's been good. The teary-eyed father sends his son to bed, who once again falls asleep at the window. It looks like Sub-Zero isn't quite gone after all. Riley plans to get the cargo tomorrow, and Green is confused as whatever they have still has a pulse, but Riley just tells him to have it ready and to follow the safety instructions. Green says fuck yo safety instructions, and his men immediately get killed by an unseen figure. Oh wait, we do see some legs. The calendar shows us we've made it to the big day, and Rauno burnt whatever big hunk of meat he was cooking. He's starting a fire when something blows ash all over him. Pietari runs down guns ready, but Rauno sees it's just a bear trap Pietari put there to catch Santa. He grounds Pietari, who has to take a leak, and when doing so notices the pig head is gone. Rauno is horrified to see a person in the trap and runs Pietari back inside, telling him it was just a bird. He tries to distract his son with more gingerbread when a Santa-dressed Pip pulls up. Pietari watches as they drag a body into the slaughterhouse. They find a wallet on the old man, but that passport belongs to Brian Green, but they don't catch that it's not the same guy. Wolf pits are illegal, so Rauno and Pip decide the best course of action is to chop up the body. Holy shit! Meanwhile, Pietari investigates the pit and finds a sack with a very creepy straw effigy. Rauno goes to cut off the arm when it pulls back, and they see the man is still breathing. The old man seems to smell something, and that something seems to be Boy. Pietari runs away, and Rauno goes after him, leaving Pip with the man. But narc-ass Pietari flags down a very poorly timed cop, and Rauno follows them to the village. The cop has no interest in Pietari though, he is investigating other matters. Imo comes out and says someone stole all of his potato sacks, not the potatoes, just the sacks. Most houses also had their radiators stolen last night, even Imo's wife's blow dryer was stolen. Pietari goes to see Yuso while the cops look over Rauno's car, but Yuso isn't in bed. He's been replaced with another effigy. For some reason, none of the adults are alarmed by this and think he has snuck out to chase girls or something. The cop heads out and Rauno asks Amo to come with him, as they need an English translator. Meanwhile, Pip is looking over the stinky old man who likes the smell of gingerbread. The old man draws him in with a whisper and strikes. As the others arrive, we see Pip is missing part of his ear. He says that thing isn't human as Imo and Rauno run inside. Imo confronts the bloody, crouching man in English but gets no response. So Rauno logically starts poking him with a broom, and they determine he is harmless when he doesn't fight back. Meanwhile, Pietari has been calling his friends' houses and all of them seem to be missing. Imo asks the man where the other Americans are, what they dug up in the mountain, and says they will keep him here until somebody pays up, but this of course gets no response. Their interrogation is interrupted by Pietari, who demands his father lash him with a branch. He tells his father he and Yuso made the hole in the fence and all of the other kids are missing, but Rauno gets called back inside before he can respond. The old man has bit the broom in half and shows particular interest when Pietari sneaks inside. Rauno thinks the old man and Pietari know each other, but Pietari tells them that the old man is actually Santa Claus and he's been dug up from the mountain. He approaches Pietri and the men give him a warning shot and string him up while they eat gingerbread. Green's radio goes off and Riley asks if Santa is ready to fly. Finally believing he may be the real thing, they tell Riley that they have Santa and he is for sale. They bring creepy Santa to the other Sub-Zero base, the one where Green and his men were killed, and discuss what they should sell him for. A helicopter arrives as Imo finds his wife's blow dryer. Riley emerges and asks where his men are, and they demand $85,000. Riley asks where the cargo is and Imo brings forth the Santa. Riley ogles at the beautiful creature and Pietri enters a big metal barn with 24 written on it, which calls back to the final day on his advent calendar he refused to open. He even leaves Vupe outside to face his demons alone. But then Santa's eyes start glowing and the men hear a loud noise. Riley tells them they need to put down their guns, smile, and do exactly what he says. Then he tells them this is not Santa, it's just one of his elves. The lights shut off and one worker who I guess was hiding or something is killed. They look around to see more and more elves surrounding them. Riley says they are protecting their master right before he gets tomahawked in the back of the head with a pickaxe. The men run inside and join Pietri, where we get to see the real Santa, and he is big as shit. The elves gathered all of the heating devices they could to help Santa thaw out. Oh, and all of the children are in sacks, waiting to be eaten by giant Santa. Imo runs for Yuso and Pip and Rauno start unplugging the stoves and heaters. Pietri tries to get everyone's attention and once again gets ignored, so he fires his gun and the men finally listen. He says as long as the kids are in the hangar, the elves won't leave. He uncovers a ton of explosives and they get to work on his plan. Pip is sent outside with gingerbread and he is able to successfully distract the elves and get to the chopper. All of the kids, including Pietri and Yuso, are pulled up and away by Pip. Rauno begins drilling holes and inserting dynamite into Santa's ice. It looks like Pietri's plan was right as the elves have followed the helicopter away from Santa. Look at all those CGI naked dudes. Pietri tells Pip to fly the helicopter toward the pens as if they are herding reindeer. Back to Rauno and Imo, Santa is absolutely chock full of dynamite. And they cut off his fucking horns. Pietri and Pip reach the pens, but the gate is closed. Pietri jumps down knowing he won't be able to get back up and opens the gate. He turns on the electricity just in time for the elves. He tells Pip to tell his dad what he did and shuts his eyes as the elves swarm the pen. Rauno and Imo head out, and as Imo wishes us a Merry Christmas, Rauno hits the detonator and blows Santa the hell up in a glorious explosion. The elves stop in confusion as a hive mind as they no longer have a job, so we don't see the tiny boy get ripped to shreds. The guys rejoin Pietri at the pen and he tells them there are 198 Santas and asks what that's worth. If they charge $85,000 each, that comes out to around $16.8 million, plus tax of course. Rauno and Pietri compliment each other's manhood, and we cut to 312 days until the next Christmas, and the guys are cleaning off the Santas. I know they are elves, but they are being sold as Santas, so I'm going to call them that for simplicity's sake. Down to 76, and the Santas are being trained to interact with children, and one particularly nice Santa gets his official hat. Only 24 days away, and a real-life Santa is being mailed to Tanzania. And with that, Rare Exports is born. And that's Rare Exports. It's a fun romp, and it's pretty quick at only 76 minutes. It has a rough, gritty feel that is appropriate for the setting and the characters, but it also has an underlying sense of whimsy that is usually in children's stories, which interacts nicely with the creepy, looming horror that the massive Santa and his elves bring to the film. It doesn't rely on jump scares. The creepiest moments are the elf just staring at Pietri, and the authentically beautiful landscape of Norway helps carry the portions where they needed to use some CGI. All of the humor is very lighthearted, there isn't anything very mean-spirited. If it weren't for all the dongs at the last quarter of the movie, I'd say you could watch it with your kids, but I'll leave that up to your discretion. Although I do want to note that the men in this movie were really quick to chop up and hide a body, like really quick. Rare Exports might not please the most intensive horror fans. It doesn't have immense amounts of gore or gut-wrenching emotional impact, but I don't really think it needs to. Their take on Evil Santa is one of the more original out there, and their commodification of the Santas is a hilarious look at the commercialization of Christmas without being too heavy-handed. I like while they allude to a lot of the older renditions and traditions of Santa Claus, he isn't tied too specifically down to one tradition or culture in this movie, and they're able to tie in the history of the land and the Sami people without being too exploitative of their history and culture. I am disappointed we don't get to see Big Bad Santa do anything, but once again, I don't think we really needed to. The movie looks really good for a $2 million budget, and that includes the CGI, which they worked on for 200 days of post-production, really trying to get it as good as they could. All in all, I recommend Rare Exports. It's a fun little horror movie with enough to please big horror fans and also be a nice introduction for people who aren't too big on Christmas horror. Well, that's about it. Next week I'll be looking at my last film of 2020, the OG slasher, Black Christmas. As always, I'm Noah Hook, and thanks for watching Hamburgers and Horror. Stay safe out there. Thanks for watching my review of Rare Exports. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up with all my future content. If you want to support the channel further, you can go join my Patreon account, where you will get to request and vote for movies you want me to cover. Or you can just email your requests to hamburgersandhorror@gmail.com. Thanks, y'all.